and welcome to Let's Talk Aging. I'm Gwyneth Johnson with Second Wind Dreams, and we are an organization dedicated to changing the perception of aging. Through this interview series, we are talking with individuals who have similar goals, but today we are lucky enough to have our founder and CEO Emeritus, PK Beville, with us. And this is part of our 25th anniversary, our silver celebration. And so the interviews during this January are with PK. Welcome, PK.
Thanks, Gwyneth. And thank you for all you do as CEO of Second Wind Dreams. I can't imagine that I could leave this legacy to anybody better than you.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure. So today I want to launch in and talk with you about how this organization happened. And I know that's a long story, but we're going to try to fit it into 15 minutes, at least the overview. Thank goodness it's the 25th anniversary, so we can talk about it all year.
That sounds great. That sounds great.
So
well,
what was it that made this happen for you?
I think that the older you get, the easier it is to look back on your past and learn from the things that placed you on a trajectory for your future as an adult. So let me start by saying that I feel as though my life circumstances prepared me for founding this organization. I had polio when I was 5. I was unable to walk and was paralyzed from my neck down. Throughout the polio experience, while it sounds horrible, and it was, I was only 5, but I know for my parents it was terrible. But I can tell you that it raised my awareness of what it's like to be disabled, what it's like to be in a classroom where you're different from everybody else, and how that disability that I had for many years and continue to struggle with created in my mind a sensitivity towards what it is like for those who are not in the norm. So it's interesting that it wasn't until later that I realized that placed me in that position of wanting to be in a career that would help others who are struggling to live their lives. So I went into psychology, and I learned pretty quickly that my best place in psychology would be assessment. I was fascinated by assessment of human behavior, and I was fascinated by how these tests were created and what is normative values and why is a normative value of such importance. So that launched me into spending a great deal of time doing assessments with older adults. I will say that I have been serving geriatrics since 1983. And of course, the world has changed a lot in geriatrics, and mainly for the good. I think a lot of what's going on right now in long-term care and aged care is wonderful. It's hard, but it's wonderful because a focus is being placed on elder care like it never was before. While I don't want to thank COVID, I think COVID is the impetus for helping to make some of that happen. So after working as a psychologist in long-term care for many years, I got frustrated, and I found that it's okay to sometimes in your life to say, this is frustrating and I need to rethink some of this. So there were things that stuck in my head about the psychological assessments, like there's 2 questions on an incomplete sentences test that always made me pause. And the first one was, finish this sentence with the way you feel, I wish. And the things they would come out with were just astonishing. I wish to visit the graveside of my loved ones. I wish I could have a steak dinner. I wish I could see my daughter again. And they were things that were basically doable, but you and I could take care of those things pretty easily. And I think what struck me is it occurred to me that they can't do that. And they're wishing for something that they've lost total control over. The second question on there always astounded me. Here they are in a nursing home. Here they are out of their own homes and away from family pretty much. And I would say, finish this sentence with the way you really feel. The future. And they would always say, I would say 99.9% of them would say, looks good or is good. So that told me psychologically, they really do like where they are in life. Things are difficult, yes, but I'm going to be able to get through this. But I still do have hopes and dreams. So that stuck in my head, and I loved working with them. I just got burned out. So I used the time after I stopped that to write a book called Second Wind. I wrote it along with Neil Schulman. It was a blast. It's based on true stories that happened while I was working in long-term care. And during that writing of the book, it started putting in my brain the possibility of making dreams come true. And I'll tell you how. As I wrote the book, it was throughout stories of things that once things were made different for the elder, their lives improved. And see, subconsciously, I was basically telling myself that there needed to be an organization that did what I wrote about in the book. So, again, retrospect is really important. So after I wrote the book, I went back into just consulting in long-term care. And during that, I started asking those questions. If you could have the perfect day, what would it be? If you could do anything you want to right now, what would that be? Is there anything from your past that you would like to relive again? So I started asking those questions. I also had a few focus groups, and I'll tell you, I bloodied my nose and skinned my knees there because people just were not thinking this is something that would be viable, a nonprofit that would be viable, making dreams come true. Well, being the stubborn woman, and I come from a long line of stubborn women, so I'd like to blame it on my ancestors. I felt it was something that needed to happen. So I began making some dreams come true. Found out pretty quickly that the staff loved it just as much as the residents did, and the outside community that helped us make the dreams come true were incredibly involved and learned so much about our elders and long-term care. So that's really, really what got us to this place.
That's amazing. And thank goodness for your frustration. Well, sometimes being uncomfortable with things is the catalyst we need to move forward in the right direction.
Exactly.
How do you see Second Wind Dreams moving forward in the future?
Well, I tell you, during those early years, my prayer was constantly, how do I raise funds? How can I get money to keep this going? And there were some pretty tough times deciding whether or not to continue. And while those were tough times, it forced me and our early board members to come up with strategies for what we needed the public to see and hear in order to be ignited, to be involved with our organization. And again, that starts to boil down to education. So I began working on my dissertation, and throughout all of this, we're going hand to mouth. I only had a few employees, but I had some unbelievably dedicated volunteers. And my professor asked me the key question. So if you could change anything in the world of geriatrics, what would it be? And at first I thought, fire all the idiots who are mean to the people who have dementia. And realized, of course, quickly that that wasn't possible and was part of my frustration. And then I got to examine, well, so what is it about that I'm really trying to say? And what I'm really trying to say is, how can we help staff and now families learn about what our elders are going through, since not a single person that's not living in long-term care knows what that's like, especially for those living with dementia. So that, creating the Virtual Dementia Tour, of course, it wasn't called that by then. In fact, our patent calls it systems and methods for imitating cognitive decline. But it's actually the Virtual Dementia Tour, and it simulates what it might be like to have dementia based on, I literally did years of research and observation. And remember, I already had in my hip pocket all those years of doing psychological evaluations, most of the time on those living with dementia. And I will tell you that that gave me such insight into what they're seeing and hearing and feeling, that once the VDT was created, nursing homes were calling me about a year later and saying, can we get something like this in our nursing homes? Well, that was my answered prayer right there, because the Virtual Dementia Tour has ended up growing this company in ways that I don't think any of us have ever thought it would. Being on the international stage has placed us in such a great place of helping people understand what empathic care looks like. So the Virtual Dementia Tour, we started selling the tour itself to long-term care. That in turn started helping us make more dreams come true. And that's sort of what got us over that horrible hump at the beginning. Now, where I see us in the future, because I still believe that there is a disconnect in our society and all societies between those of us living in the community and those of us who actually built the community and are now living in long-term care. There's a huge disconnect. And, you know, this includes home health. This includes anywhere that elders are, I guess I would say, marginalized. And so to me, there's a huge educational gap there. And sadly, so many decisions are made about our elders as a knee-jerk response to a crisis. And you know, sometimes placement happens because of that. Sometimes poor decisions are made because of that. And our company is committed to changing that perception. And to me, in 25 years, I hope we have empathic training institutes all over the United States, and our partners in internationally. I hope that we have a way of sending people through a brain where they can actually touch and feel what parts of the brain are affected, then actually go through the VDT and come out with action plans. And then I want an actual institute, in the institute, where training can be going on all day, every day, for families, community leaders. To me, Second Wind Dreams is so well poised for that I think that we have proven after 25 years that this is a viable company and a viable resource for growing our society and international society in general towards the place of better health care for those that are older.
Fantastic. One of the things I truly love about this organization and the way that you built it is that whether it's the Dreams program, whether it's the Virtual Dementia Tour, or any of the other offerings that we have, it works at a grassroots level and always should. because creating community around older adults, around long-term care, and diminishing that fear that we seem to have societally of that, um, it belongs in the community.
You know, Gwyneth, to that point, we've created so many weird isms in our society, and you know, one of them is when people say we have to take care of the children because the children are our future. Well, you know, that kind of cracks me up. I love children. I have one, and you know, I adore them, and I think it is important that we take care of our children. But actually, our children aren't our future. Our elders are our future. That's where we're going to be. That's our future. And I kind of crack up when people say that, because I really badly want to correct them and say, yeah, no, they're going to have their own future, but our future is ahead of us. That's the future. And if we don't start going about the business of really examining how we're taking care of our elders, we're going to find ourselves in a pretty rough spot. So I think Second Wind Dreams is well poised to help alleviate some of those issues and start building a foundation for a society that is inclusive of our elders. I was once at a conference for, you know, whatever, in New York City. And, you know, it's kind of Ellie Mae Clampett, come to the big city. And I was having a great time. They were having a beautiful presentation. And after it was over, the CEO of this company said, are there any questions? And I said, yeah, these floral arrangements are unbelievably beautiful, unbelievable. I wonder what you're going to do with them afterwards. And she looked real puzzled, which I guess anybody would, looked real puzzled. And she said, well, I guess we'll be placing them around the corporate offices. And I said, would it be possible for them to be delivered to a nursing home? And this corporate CEO of a Fortune 500 company said, we don't have any nursing homes in New York City. Now, if that doesn't blow your mind, I know I tried to keep a straight face, but I was about to spit out my drink. And I said, well, that's interesting, isn't it? How about this? I'm going to have someone from my office check around. And if I can find a nursing home in New York City, would it be possible to have those delivered out there? And she kind of blew me off and said, oh, yeah, sure. Well, sure enough, right off Fifth Avenue, which is where I was, there were 5 huge nursing homes within 3 blocks. Now, let me tell you something. Doesn't that say something about corporate America, number one? Number two, doesn't it say something about how we think about things and what we do with things? Sure enough, I saw vans coming in to pick up those floral arrangements, and they were delivered to the nursing home, which of course we all appreciated. And you know how those elders loved it. So I think it's those kinds of things that have to create a cultural shift in how we view our elders and their important place in our society.
Absolutely. Well, PK, you and I could talk about this all day long.
We could, and we do sometimes.
And we do. But we will have a second interview with you this month, and we'll come back and talk about empathic person-centered care, a phrase that you coined and is now one of our mantras here at Second Wind Dreams. So we look forward to talking with you in a very short period of time.
Great. Happy 25th.
Happy 25th. And thank you all for joining us on Let's Talk Aging. Please check out our website and our social media, www.secondwind.org. It is our 25th anniversary, and our campaign all year long is 25 for 25. $25 donations for our 25th anniversary can help us continue our mission, provide scholarships to organizations and individuals who cannot afford to otherwise have the Virtual Dementia Tour, and helps us fund dreams across the country. So give us a look. and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.